Hello, it's Catherine here of Selling from the Heart, and today I want to talk to you about the internal yes. And this is the piece that, for me, when I'm asked, what's the difference between my style of heart-centered sales and the more traditional sales techniques you can learn elsewhere? Well, for me, this is one of the really big distinctions for me is the difference between the internal yes that you get from a more heart-centered conversation and the sort of yes that comes through more traditional sales approaches. So more traditional sales approaches are typically um, designed to to get the client to say yes. There's a lot of focus on the agenda of the person who's doing the selling, of their desire to close the sale, maybe their need to hit their targets, and there's a great focus on getting the yes, as though it's something that the salesperson can cause to happen within the other person, almost whether they like it or not. So the traditional yes is often elicited through using sales techniques designed to do that. So that's what closing techniques are. Closing techniques are simply techniques that are designed to get somebody to say yes to you in a sales conversation. There's lots of different ones. I did a Google search once and I found a website that listed 76 different types of closing techniques. But an example of this would be something called the yes set. And the way that works is, the theory is that if you can ask somebody a series of questions that cause them to say yes as the answer 3 times in a row, that when you then say, so would you like to go ahead and buy this from me, they are much more likely to just say yes to you because it's almost sort of been programmed. And there's a whole other raft of different techniques that are used to play on human psychology, basically to almost, I don't know if manipulate is the right word, that's quite a strong word, but really designed to get somebody to say yes when they haven't necessarily formed their own deep emotional connection to the decision. Whereas with the internal yes is something that comes from within the client. It's an almost visceral feeling. It might bubble up from their belly, or it might be something they feel in their heart. And the feeling is almost like a pulling forward, an energetic pulling forward. And the way this would work would be that rather than you get to the end of the sales conversation, make the offer, the person isn't sure because they haven't really connected in with that decision, rather than you then needing to persuade, cajole, push, manipulate, the feeling is that the client is almost energetically already leaning into you. They're probably already running, if they have the internal yes, they'll already be running an internal conversation that says something like, oh, everything she has said so far makes total sense. I've never heard anybody who understands so well what I'm going through. What she's saying about the program and how she's going to help me, that sounds like something I need. I think I want to do this. I can't wait to hear what the details are and what it costs, and if I can make it work and if I can afford it, I think I'm going to say yes. Now that's they're not necessarily having that full conversation, but that's the energetic feeling within. It's like a leaning in. It's a yes, an internal yes. Now, they haven't said the yes externally yet. That can be the result of a whole different conversation. But the aim of what we're trying to get, can you see the distinction between trying to get a yes out of somebody who doesn't know if they want to give it to you yet versus somebody who actually has that yes that bubbles up from within them? The other advantage of doing it this way is you're much less likely to have clients who change their mind. So if we're in a heart-centered business and we're going to be, let's say, maybe you're a healer or a consultant or an accountant or a coach, and if you're in the business of making a difference to somebody, then the chances are that means that they're going to be enrolling to work with you over a period of time. and you're going to be working together quite closely. You know, even if it's on something like their business or their finances, they're still going to be opening up to you in a way that they wouldn't perhaps open up to just anybody. And so when they say yes to working with you, you're entering into this relationship where the trust and the openness is so important. And if you've got them to say yes based on using manipulative or psychological techniques, that trust isn't there from the beginning. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of traditional sales techniques like closing techniques and objection handling techniques simply are not effective for a heart-centered business. Quite apart from the fact that your typical heart-centered business owner just doesn't want to do that type of thing. You know, that's another factor altogether. You know, if you're in business because you want to make a difference to other people and you genuinely care about other people, you're going to feel uncomfortable if it comes to learning how to use some of these more sophisticated sales techniques. And so what I prefer is to teach you how to take your client through a conversation in a really structured and very supportive way. It starts with you coming from a place of being in service to that client, and in service to what is in their best interests rather than the best interests of your bank account. It's then about you creating a meaningful connection and really taking the trouble to get to know them and listen to them and know what they need. But most importantly, it's taking them through the conversation in a structured way so that you're covering all the right things in the right order. You're almost taking the potential client on a journey. I often talk about it as walking hand in hand along a forest path. And then at some point you're going to come to a fork in the road and you're going to ask them whether they want to continue with you as their guide or whether they want to take the other fork and go off on their own. So you're guiding them. And if you take them through and you cover all the right things in the right order, your client will be able to decide for themselves whether working with you is the right thing. And that's another important part of this approach. It's that it treats the client with respect and it treats them as though they're a human being who is perfectly able to make their own decisions. We don't need to make their decisions for them, but sometimes we need to take them through that conversation so that they can really understand the benefits of the work that we do and the difference it can make to them and why it does have the value for them in relation to what we charge. So if you'd like an example of this, you can go to my website, sellingfromtheheart.com, and you can sign up there for a free video training called The 7 Steps to Yes, which is where I talk you through how to guide a client step by step through a sales conversation that feels totally authentic and comfortable for both of you, and which will result, if you do it well, and if the client and if what you have to offer is right for the client and you're a good fit, will result in that client having the internal yes. Now, it doesn't automatically mean that when you say, so would you like to go ahead, that they're going to say, yes please, when can we start? Because your client is a human being and they're full of complexity and they're going to have all sorts of concerns, doubts, resistance to working with you, including the investment. But as long as they've had that feeling of the internal yes, you don't have to twist their arm, cajole, manipulate them. All you need to do is to be willing to have a genuinely supportive conversation with them where you help them to explore and overcome some of that resistance. And it's if you don't have the internal yes. So if you don't have the internal yes, by the point at which you start to talk about the specifics of your offer, including how it works in the price, then then that's when you start to need to get all of these pushy tools out of your toolkit to start to persuade them to say yes. Get the internal yes first, and the whole thing's going to flow so much more beautifully for you, for both of you. It will feel more comfortable for both sides, because your client doesn't want to be dealing with a pushy salesperson that's on a mission to get them to say yes, but you also don't want to be one, do you? So I'd love to know how this has landed for you today. And please do share in the comments below. I always love to hear from you. If you found value in it, please, do share it on social media or forward it on to someone you know. And as I said, if you want to learn the structure to take somebody through, in order that if they are the right client for you, they get that internal yes, then you can go and sign up for that free training at sellingfromtheheart.com. And one of the other things that are important here is your ability to clearly communicate and articulate the difference that you can make to your potential clients, so that they understand clearly that you do have the solution to their problem, and your willingness to invite them to take the next step and to ask them clearly to go ahead and make the decision. But if that internal yes has already happened before you do that, then it's mostly smooth sailing from there. I hope you've enjoyed today. Lots of love to you. Until next week. Bye-bye.